million of Americans claiming a connection to that heritage today with a vote. 03030 80 55 55. We'll take your calls and we'll take your texts as well on 81771. Let's have a word with Erol Morkoc from Republicans Abroad. Hi, Erol. Good to have you with us.
Oh, yes. Thank you for having me.
Were you surprised, first of all, by this pick?
I wouldn't say I was surprised. There had been a lot of behind-the-scenes rumblings that Mr. Vance was going to be selected. However, he isn't maybe who the last 20 years of political establishment would have thought that Trump would pick. They might have thought he would choose a woman, or he would choose an African-American, or he would choose somebody based on identity, which has been, a thing that's been going on in American politics. But Donald Trump instead chose somebody who he believed held his exact ideology, despite having originally not been a supporter. And to see Donald Trump sort of have that open tent policy, and to let a young man who disagreed with him when he was 30 and then had 3 children and converted to Catholicism, and he changed his views and realized that how he was behaving and how he was seeing Donald Trump was actually incorrect. To see that sort of amazing arc that happened, I mean, that was probably the most surprising thing. You would never have thought that J.D. Vance 5 years ago would be Donald Trump's VP, but today it makes perfect sense, and I'm very proud to see that he's on our ticket.
Does it also tell us that Donald Trump prioritizes and values personal loyalty over everything else?
I totally agree with that. I mean, that's the a number one tenet of the Trumpian world. I mean, and how else are you going to govern? Oftentimes, he surrounded himself by people who he was told to trust, or people who, you got to keep in mind that Donald Trump was manor-born. He's a very wealthy man who was an insider his whole life, and when he won in 2016, he felt that they would come and they would basically change the world.
Just throw that phone out the window, Errol. Don't worry about it. Just chuck it.
Terrible.
Don't worry about it. It happens to all of us. Don't worry about it.
Sorry, what was the original question? I've lost my...
Whether he values personal loyalty over everything else.
Yes. Yeah, it's definitely about personal loyalty, and it's definitely about family, right? And Donald Trump Jr. is a big fan of J.D. Vance. And Donald Trump Jr. is somebody who obviously has a lot of influence on his father. And so you put all of these things together and you realize that, J.D. Vance is somebody who's going to be loyal, somebody who, the great thing is he wasn't loyal. Donald Trump isn't surrounding himself with ideological sycophants. He's not surrounding himself by people who are just going to say yes. He surrounded himself now with people who have come into the fold. He gives people an opportunity to change their minds. So I think loyalty above all else is what Donald Trump values, and J.D. Vance has that.
And just finally, on some of the policy issues here, Senator Vance is a very strongly committed pro-lifer. He defends the idea of a nationwide ban on abortion, even in cases of rape and incest, and he's entitled to those views, of course. But I wonder how that might play out electorally, particularly with women voters come November.
Yep. That's a great point. And I want to point out that the GOP platform for the last 50 years has been a pro-life platform. And J.D. Vance's personal opinions about abortion are not what Donald Trump and the Republican Party are saying. Donald Trump's basically saying there's not going to be a federal ban on abortion. The current platform is to let the states decide. But in the cases of rape, incest, or other awful situations, Donald Trump is pro-abortion. So while J.D. Vance has those beliefs, and he has, very Christian beliefs, you have to keep in mind that the current Democrat platform, which is taxpayer-funded abortion up until birth, only polls at around 13%. And oftentimes, American voters and the Republican Party are looking to have a more European or British sort of legal system when it comes to this very touchy issue. So J.D. Vance certainly is going to have to get behind Donald Trump's beliefs on abortion, not his own, which are slightly different. Donald Trump is much more liberal. And keep in mind, Donald Trump was a registered Democrat until 2008. Donald Trump's not an anti-abortion candidate. He's simply trying to take it out of the federal government's hands and put it back into the right of the states, except in those extreme cases. So J.D. Vance is going to have to get behind the president, not the other way around.
Thank you very much, Erol Morkoc from Republicans Abroad. We're also joined in the studio by Professor Catherine Clinton, the author and historian, and by Dr. Stefan Andreasen from the School of History and Politics at Queen's University. Down the line, we've got Ian Crozier with us also, Chief Executive of the Ulster Scots Agency. Welcome. Good to have you with us.